Good evening. This is the news on DBS Television. You are welcome and thanks for joining us. For 3 days, covering a distance of about 600 kilometers from Bangui in the Central African Republic, 30 heavy-duty trucks arriving at the border town of Garoua Boulay in the east region of Cameroon are being escorted by UN peacekeeping forces. That paved the way for a similar convoy to take off from Garoua Boulay back to Bangui with the same security disposition. This is a sign of resumption of circulation along the Douala-Bangui corridor in the presence of administrative authorities from both countries.
I am a very happy sous-prefet, very happy divisional officer. As you can see, the convoy has just left, and before the convoy left, there was a lot of consultation and consultations between the two governments. Efforts have been put together, many things have been done on the ground to ensure that these drivers go to Bangui and come back safely on Monday.
The reason for the interruption of normal circulation is the socio-political crisis in the Central African Republic that has grounded close to 800 trucks for more than a month in Garoua Boulay. On the other side, about 246 trucks are blocked in Bangui, a situation that has a negative impact on the economy of the sub-region. It has been a difficult moment for the over 1,600 drivers and their associates. With the turn of events, this is a sigh of relief for them.
So my impression is more travel fine, more work fine, work hard, more risk, no problem.
These are the outstanding young girls from the last session of primary school certificate examinations from the East region. They are altogether 60 in number, selected as overall best in their various subdivisions and divisions, and then at the regional level. In recognition of their hard work and brilliant success in the CEP and First School Living Certificate, the Ministry of Basic Education handed awards to the young girls, also as a way to encourage them to keep working harder, even in their secondary education, which they have commenced.
The scholarship for today is to permit that girls go away from, finish the primary school, and they permit to maintain girls in the school.
The prize given to the young girls is worth a sum of 125,000 francs CFA for the best of subdivisions, 180 for the best in each division, and 225,000 francs CFA for the overall best of the East region. The prizes were handed to the girls early this week during a ceremony at the esplanade of the governor's office. The beneficiary students were glad to receive the scholarships.
Today I'm so happy, so happy. My face is that I'm happy. I received 125,000 I received. My first envelope that I received in school. So I'm so happy. I thank them all.
This is an initiative of administrative authorities of the region of the Rising Sun to fight against cultural and societal as well as economic barriers to education of girls in the East region. For this reason, every parent was called upon to send all their children to school, and particularly for parents of the beneficiary students to make good use of the money received. The parents showed up in their numbers to show love and support to their daughters, who made them proud. While expressing their joy, they as well promised to make good use of the cash prize and keep offering the best of education to their girl children. Out of the national borders, security forces in Mali dispersed a protest in Bamako on Wednesday as they fired tear gas at dozens of protesters during an unauthorized march against the French military's role in the country. Earlier, Bamako City Hall had banned the protest against the French military, citing COVID-19 restrictions. Protesters on motorbike convoys managed their way through police roadblocks. The protesters, who were in a central square of the Malian capital, fled before the canisters were fired. France has more than 5,100 military personnel based in Mali and the West African Sahel region to help counter militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, an involvement that is facing increased opposition at home and in Mali. France deployed troops to Mali in 2013 to help drive out Islamist militants who had occupied the north of the country after hijacking a Tuareg rebellion. Though the fighters have been pushed from main towns, Mali has failed to stabilize while the militants have regrouped and have carried out attacks in a prolonged insurgency. The violence has spread to neighboring states, stoked ethnic and intercommunal tensions, and rendered large parts of the country's semi-arid north ungovernable. On Tuesday, President Emmanuel Macron said France could adjust its military operations in the Sahel region. Diplomatic and military sources expect a partial French withdrawal to be announced by mid-February. A close ally of Joseph Kabila, Daniel Ngoy Mulunda, a former president of the Independent National Electoral Commission, has been on trial since Tuesday for inciting tribal hatred. The pastor of the New Methodist Church was arrested on January 18 in Lubumbashi after one of his sermons on January 16, in which he allegedly made separatist remarks. His court appearance was initially scheduled for Tuesday, but was shifted for Wednesday. Under the court terms, he is accused of incitement to tribal hatred, the propagation of false rumors, and of having undermined the integrity of the national territory. Many civil society actors in Lubumbashi have voiced concerns over the several arrests being made after personal opinions about the state of the country is being brought to question. His incarceration is similar to others that recently took place in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where freedom of expression appears to be increasingly challenged. His lawyers have refused to appear in court until factual evidence against Kabila Daniel Ngoy is proven by court in regard to the accusations being levied. In Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo has trimmed down the number of ministries in his second administration from 36 to 29. Consequently, the number of ministers, deputy ministers and regional ministers to be appointed would not exceed 85. The list of qualified Ghanaians who will serve as ministers and deputy ministers in President Akufo-Addo's second term would be released this week as soon as Parliament constitutes its appointments committee. The Director of Communications at the Presidency, Mr. Eugene Ahin, said on Tuesday that the list, which would be printed on green sheet in the form of a statement, would contain a mixture of both old and new ministers, but the number would certainly not go beyond 85 as against the 126 in his first term. Mr. Ahin indicated that the list would exclude former members of parliament who were appointed ministers or deputy ministers but who could not secure re-election in the 2020 parliamentary elections. As violence continues to escalate in Mozambique, the European Union has agreed to partner with the Southern African nation in curbing the armed conflict attributed to extremist Islamic groups in Cabo Delgado province. The EU cooperation with Mozambique is seen as a key element in bolstering security levels in the coastal province. One of the main jihadist groups is Al-Shabaab, which has sworn allegiance to Islamic State but has no known links to the group of the same name operating in Somalia. They attacked 4 towns, including the port of Mocimboa da Praia, which has been occupied since August. The fighting in the north of the country has already claimed 2,400 lives and forced 570,000 people to flee their homes, according to the government. Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi has replaced the army's top generals after intensified jihadist attacks threatened a major natural gas plant in the country's north. While the presidency did not give any reasons for the military reshuffle, it may have been prompted by renewed attacks by an Islamist group in the northern Cabo Delgado province, site of the $20 billion construction project led by French energy giant Total. A tragic shipwreck in the Mediterranean Sea off Libya's coast has killed at least 43 migrants bound for Europe, the UN Migration Agency has reported. Their boat capsized in rough seas in what is considered as the first shipwreck of 2021 in the central Mediterranean. 10 survivors were rescued and brought to shore by coastal security in Zuwara, the main international organization for migration and UN refugee agency, confirmed in a joint statement. Libya, which descended into chaos following the 2011 uprising that toppled and killed longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi, has emerged as a major transit point for African and Arab migrants fleeing war and poverty to Europe. Most migrants make the perilous journey in poorly equipped and unsafe rubber boats, seeking for a peaceful environment and for greener pastures. Over to the United States, President Joe Biden has moved swiftly to dismantle Donald Trump's legacy on his first day in office, signing a series of executive actions that reverse course on immigration, climate change, racial equity, and the handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The new president signed the orders just hours after taking the oath of office at the Capitol, pivoting quickly from his pared-down inauguration ceremony to enacting his agenda. Biden immediately ordered a stop to the construction of Trump's U.S.-Mexico wall, ended the ban on the travel from some Muslim-majority countries, declared his intent to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and the World Health Organization, and revoked the appeal of the Keystone XL oil pipeline, aide said. Only 2 recent presidents signed executive orders on the first day in office, and each signed just one. But Biden, facing the coronavirus pandemic, a damaged economy, and a riven electorate, is intent on demonstrating a sense of urgency and competence that he urges has been missing under the Republican predecessor. Amongst other decisions taken, Biden instructed federal agencies to prioritize racial equity and review policies that reinforce systemic racism. Those moves and others would be followed by dozens more in the next 10 days, the president's aide said, as Biden looks to redirect the country without having to go through a Senate that Democrats control by the narrowest margin, and will soon turn to the impeachment trial of Trump, who is charged by the House with inciting the insurrection at the Capitol. We end today's edition in Madrid, Spain. A huge explosion has ravaged a building in central Madrid this Wednesday, leaving at least 3 dead, 1 missing and several injured, as stated by preliminary counts. According to the central government delegate for the Spanish capital region, José Manuel Franco, the first information gathered suggests that the explosion may have been caused by a gas leak. At least 6 floors were blown up by the explosion. Part of the building collapsed shortly after, raising a column of smoke and dust in the sky. Firefighters continue to search the rubble but cannot access the remains of the building due to the instability of the gutted structure. The building is said to belong to a Catholic parish house where priests lived mainly, and the Cardinal of Madrid, Carlos Osoro Serra, was amongst the injured. Meantime, search is underway by rescuers to see if there are more casualties or injuries left out. That was what we gathered for you on this edition of the news. Thanks for being with us. Stay safe and see you tomorrow.